Welcome to Newshour. Joe Biden makes a fiery return to the national stage with a speech laced with urgency, anger and accusation. Speaking at the 100th Annual National Bar Association Gala in Chicago, the former president denounced Donald Trump's administration, warning that the rule of law, equality and constitutional values are under siege. Biden accused law firms, institutions and even the media of buckling under political pressure. With that rhetoric, it was both personal and pointed. He warned of a rollback in civil liberties and painted a bleak picture of America's legal system under Trump's leadership. But while the crowd applauded, the wider reaction has been more mixed. Critics have pounced on the speech as déjà vu, another Democratic indictment of Trump with little introspection. Biden's sharp rebuke of anti-immigration policies has also drawn irony, considering his own record on deportations. So has the Democratic Party evolved or simply doubled down? Our correspondent joins us now from Washington.
Well, Guy, it's not often that we hear from Joe Biden these days. He's very rarely seen, he's very rarely heard from. He spends a lot of his time surrounded by just a couple of aides after having a staff of hundreds. And in many ways, that is the way that Democrats would like it. There is still residual anger at the former president. That many Democrats feel that, quite simply, he lost the election for the Democrats, handing the White House to Donald Trump, largely due to the fact that he dropped out of the race in July ahead of the November election. And some Democrats simply feel that did not give the candidate, Kamala Harris, enough time to mount a realistic opportunity of beating Donald Trump. Now, in this speech, Joe Biden spoke about dark days that the United States was facing. It was only a 20-minute speech, but he spent a lot of it attacking Donald Trump, even though he didn't use his name, and attacking the ways in which Donald Trump, he feels, is undermining the rule of law and in many ways undermining the Biden legacy. He said that Donald Trump was rolling back basic freedoms, that he was eroding long-standing established precedences. Previously, remember, Joe Biden said that Donald Trump was a threat to democracy. He also said that the Trump administration as a whole was trying to erase the truth. And he had plenty of blame also for Congress, saying that many lawmakers were simply sitting on the sidelines, failing to stop Donald Trump and his promises and his policies now that he is in the Oval Office. Also fury for the Supreme Court's rulings in recent months. Joe Biden pointing out that many of them favoured the current president, Donald Trump. He also labelled the Trump administration's immigration policies cruel, and went on to say that he had thought that the rounding up of migrants, the parading of them in front of cameras and sending them off to other countries around the world was not something that the United States should be doing. In terms of reaction to the speech, though, it has been very muted. Many people have simply barely noticed that Joe Biden gave a speech. There's been no comment from the White House. Many Democrats haven't come out to directly say what they thought of the speech. And in terms of Joe Biden's political ambitions, I think there are none at this stage. We're told that he's spending a lot of his time holed up at home, working on his memoir, a memoir that he sold the rights for $10 million, but also battling that prostate cancer diagnosis. It doesn't look as if he will try at any point to run again for political office. I think those days are over. And hearing from Joe Biden in this rare speech was really just a reminder for many Democrats of a past that they are now trying to forget.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Well, let's have a listen now to some of those headline-making remarks from Joe Biden at the National Bar Association Gala.
Mr. Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
I was then proud to serve as vice president to our first black president, Barack Obama. And I was proud to ask Kamala Harris to run with me, be the first black woman to serve as vice president of the United States. Judges matter. courts matter. The law matters. And the Constitution matters. I think a lot of Americans are starting to realize that under the pressure we're under now with this guy we have as president. Oh, get ready, folks. This is just starting. Folks, in our lives, the life of our nation, there are moments so stark that they divide all that came before from everything that followed. We are, in my view, at such a moment in American history. Amen. Reflected in every cruel executive outreach, every rollback of basic freedoms, every erosion of long-standing established precedent. We see in the law firms bowing to pressure, bending to bullies, instead of staying rooted in justice and the law, including some of the largest newspapers in America. We see in the apparent glee some of our politicians express. That's while watching immigrants who are in this country legally, torn from the arms of their family, dragged away in handcuffs from the only home they've ever known. My friends, we need to face the hard truth of this administration. It has been to ease all the gains we've made in my administration, to erase history rather than make it, to erase fairness, equality, to erase justice itself. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact. These are dark days. But you're all here for the same reason. I left that prestigious law firm in the public defender's office to go to the defender's office years ago. It's because our future is literally on the line. We must be unapologetic of fighting for the future.
Well, to unpack what this means for the Democrats and the political mood more broadly, I'm delighted to say we're joined now by our guest, Peter Roth from Newsweek magazine. Peter, thanks for joining us. Always a joy to have you on the show. Scathing words there from former President Biden. He said this is a turning point in American history. Do you think this speech carried weight, or was it a bit more partisan theatre?
This speech landed with the impact of a feather. People, if we hadn't been told it had been made, no one would know.
The impact of a feather. Very, very interesting. So quite clear what your assessment of the speech is. I mean, he did go hard on some issues, like immigration in particular. Although having said that, critics pointed to his own deportation record. Do you think there's a fundamental disconnect there?
I think there's a fundamental disconnect on a lot of things for Mr. Biden, which is why his presidency was a failure. You know, he ran as the reliable, moderate, old line Democrat. He tried to govern like Bernie Sanders. Inflation got to almost 10%. The economy went into a tailspin. Real wages went down. People suffered. I mean, you know, and now he takes $10 million to write a memoir of a presidency that he can't remember, but the rest of us would desperately like to forget. This doesn't help the Democrats at all. Some of them are angry that he didn't drop out sooner. Some of them are angry that he dropped out at all. I do have to say, based on the math and the campaign turn, I think he would have been a stronger general election opponent to Donald Trump than Kamala Harris was, because she was so terrible. And I don't think if the Democratic Party in America had been given the opportunity to pick a new nominee through a single-day national primary, rather than the anointing, some people here still call it a coup, that got him out and pushed her in, he would have run better against Trump, certainly. And he would have run better against her in the swing states, places like Michigan and Pennsylvania, which are full of union working, middle class Democrats whose language Joe Biden speaks.
Do you think, Peter, that there could be a sense in which if he'd been a bit more nuanced, if he'd accepted some responsibility for the election failure, that some of his criticisms might have gained more traction? Of course, no administration, no president is perfect or beyond criticism. Some of the points that Mr. Biden was making about bowing to pressure, I mean, we've certainly seen that in terms of foreign policy. There's a reasonable point of view, which would be to sort of criticize or at least warn about the dangers of that. Do you think really that it's because his focus was so resolute on the same old Democratic attack lines that's drawn such criticism?
Look, I have always felt that while there are some substantive stylistic differences, Joe Biden is just as strident, just as sharp elbows as Donald Trump does. The fact is that the people Trump pokes are the ones who set the national conversation here in the United States. And so they fight back. The people Biden pokes are the punching bag for the same kinds of people who went mourning and hate Donald Trump. You know, the Biden agenda was a product of the liberal elites. It wasn't the product of working class, traditional Union Democrats and civil rights activists and the people we know to be the backbone of the traditional Democratic Party. It was the kind of thing that was concocted by Wall Street billionaires and university academics and rich, highly educated people who were trying to impose their vision of America on everybody else, which is exactly what Biden has contemptuously accused Trump and the Trump movement of trying to do. You know, there's no, it's fires because they can't see their reflection in the mirror.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point about the reflection in the mirror, Peter. What do the Democrats need to do? I mean, what are they doing to reform, reset, reevaluate what went wrong at the last election? And how hopeful are you that there'll be a new approach from whoever emerges now at the forefront of the party?
As is typical, and as the Republicans did after George Herbert Walker Bush lost in 1992, and especially after Mitt Romney lost in 2012, they've done autopsies. Why did we lose? And the conclusion typically, and it's the case here for the Democrats as well, we weren't strident enough. We weren't extreme enough. We weren't polarizing enough. And you get that largely because of the kinds of people who end up writing these autopsies are typically, you know, party activists with an ideological edge. The red-blue divide in America is real. And again, if you look at the map from 2024, it's not even red states versus blue states anymore. It's red states and red counties versus blue cities and blue suburbs. There's a lot of red in a place like New York. There's a lot of, you know, in California, the Republicans who are underwater because of gerrymandering still got 40% of the vote. That's not an insignificant number. Yet the ascendant Democrats are all of the socialist redistribution of the wealth, larger government, more aggressive regulatory stripe. Look no further than New York City, where they very may well elect a guy who was until recently the Democratic Socialist Party, Mondani, as he's talking about setting up city government grocery stores, and he's talking altering the tax structure so rich people pay more as a percentage than poor people on things like property taxes, because well, if he does that, the money's going to move around, but it's going to move out of Manhattan to Palm Beach, Florida, where there's zero income tax, or it's going to move to
Peter, sorry to interrupt. I'm just really interested in this point you make about the polarization. It's very interesting because, I mean, have you got any hope at all that that divergence in society is ever going to slow down? Are people ever going to come together again? Because arguably you have people on the right that are moving further to the right, people on the left who are moving further to the left. It's increasingly unfashionable to be somewhere in the middle. What sort of picture do you paint of the future? Are we ever going to be able to bridge that gap between the two sides?
I think we'll bridge the gap, because I do think people are moving farther to the left. I think people on the right side of the left are moving to the right. I don't think the Republicans are getting more conservative. They are getting more popular under Trump, and it's going to be an interesting fight to see if the wing of the party survives with Trump. The pro-tariff on legal as well as illegal immigration, protectionist, make America great again, remain in the Republican Party, or if it reverts to the more Reaganite, libertarian, free trade, but modified vision of the future. So I think what's the Democratic Party becomes less and less popular. I mean, nobody loves the Republicans right now, but they really hate the Democrats. That people on the right of the Democratic are either becoming independents or they're crossing over. They're moving over. You're seeing that voting in some of the voting trends. And there's a new website that was created by the group Unleash Prosperity called votewithyourfeet.net. It tracks the in the United States, and what you're seeing is people moving from high tax, high regulation, anti-business climate states like California, Illinois, to free market states with lower notes like Tennessee and Florida and Texas.
That's a very interesting. Sorry, Pete, that's a very interesting point. I should just say we're having a few technical problems with the connection, so apologies to viewers for that. I do think it's worth staying with you, though. It's a very, very interesting topic, this. So this polarization that we've been speaking about actually has taken on a different form. We're starting to see people leaving areas because of the voting habits and actually moving and setting up home in areas to be alongside people who have similar voting habits, similar aspirations.
That's right. And again, the data for all of this data, other financial data, is at this votewithyourfeet.net website. People can, if they're interested, can look at it themselves live this week. But what that means is, by the way we elect president in America, people are moving out of reliably liberal states to conservative states, to red. And the estimates are right now that in 2032, which will be the next election after the seats in the U.S. House of Representatives are reapportioned among the 50 states. There's a fixed number of House seats, 435. And they're apportioned out based on population. It's going to be like the state of Minnesota flipped from being reliably Democrat to reliably Republican. It'll be about 12 seats. Move from blue to red permanently because of this in-migration, which changes the presidential map. California, which gained population in every census from statehood, lost population for the first time in the 2020 count. And it's going to lose even more population in the 2030 count.
Wow, unprecedented times, unprecedented.
Texas and Florida, meanwhile, are growing like wildfire or wildflowers.
We're going to have to leave it there, Peter. But yeah, it certainly is unprecedented times, and we thank you very much indeed for keeping us up to date with all those changes. Always great to speak to you, Peter Roth, for us there. Now, that is all for this edition of NewsHour. Biden's speech then may have rallied supporters, but it also reignited long-standing debates over the Democrats' message and momentum. Is this a resurgence or just a rerun? From all of us here at A News, thanks for being with us.